What's up, everyone? In this week's video, I'm going to answer a question, which is, how do you deal with a narcissist? It's a great question. So the first thing to understand is this: a lot of people misunderstand what narcissism really is. If you're in a relationship and someone hurts you and that person seemed to be self-centered, that doesn't necessarily make that person a narcissist. If you just broke up because that person is connecting with others and, often in different relationships, and that person just hurt you, I think the word narcissism gets thrown around a lot, and probably more so than it actually warrants. I actually specialize in working with people convicted of violent crimes and have been into some of the most dangerous facilities in the country. And I see people who struggle with actual narcissism, and when you see that, you realize that people who actually have narcissism, there could be someone just dying in the next cell over, and they're upset that you're focusing on that person instead of them. That's true narcissism. It means no matter what's going on around them, their only focus is themselves. So if you're in a recent breakup and the person left you for someone else or did something awful, like, went behind your back in a relationship, that's terrible, that's hurtful, that's painful, and you have every right to be angry. That doesn't necessarily make that person a narcissist. A person is a narcissist when they cannot see beyond themselves, so they may focus everything on themselves. And if you are dealing with someone who is struggling with narcissism, then it's really important to understand that if the person has true narcissism, then neurologically they really just cannot see the world from your perspective. So you trying to do more and more to get them to understand is not going to work, because there's nothing magical that you can do. If they have a neurological predisposition to narcissism, that means that they are unable to see the world from other people's perspectives. They only see what serves them. Now, we live in a world where the idea, loosely, of narcissism is pretty free. So we take selfies all the time, and we tell people, hey, I'm going to take a break from social media for a couple days. I just need everybody to know, as if we imagine that everyone is just waiting for us to say, oh no, please don't take a break for a couple days. So we get very self-centered, and our culture is built around self-centeredness. It probably even idolizes self-centeredness. But true narcissism is a neurological disorder where people cannot see past themselves. So let's say, again, for real, that you're dealing with somebody who has narcissism. The first important concept to understand is, don't try to make them not be selfish, because they actually don't have an ability to not be selfish. So instead, it's important to align your expectations with the reality of where they actually are. If they are in that spot, then expect that. Look, if I expected this couch to be an elephant, and every day I came in front of this video and I was like, well, why isn't this couch an elephant already? At some point you're going to say, listen, it's not an elephant, it's a couch, right? As ridiculous as that might seem, it is no different than looking at someone who's struggling with narcissism and thinking, narcissism, easy for me to say, and thinking, well, they should be thoughtful today. They should be mindful of me today, because that's no different than me thinking that this couch should be an elephant. It's not an elephant, it's a couch. Someone who's struggling with narcissism doesn't have the neurological capability to focus on anyone outside of themselves. And so, again, it's important for you to protect yourself. It's important for you not to buy into the story that that person tells you. And that can be difficult, because someone struggling with true narcissism can be extraordinarily convincing. I worked with someone one time who did some really awful things to children, and he was struggling with narcissism, and he tried to convince me that, how did I know that the children weren't the ones who offended on him? It's tough to be around. It's tough to hear. It's tough to deal with. There's no doubt about it. True narcissism is very difficult to be around. I think it's important to bracket where somebody is with narcissism. So if you find somebody who's narcissistic, kind of see them as, okay, that's where they are, and that's all they can see. The visual that I think can be helpful is to visualize like 4 mirrors all around them. So in other words, every time you see a person, if you pass a person by on the street and that person had 4 mirrors all around them, you'll say, well, of course they can't see outside of themselves. That's all they see are these mirrors. Well, that's a good visual for somebody struggling with narcissism because they can't see outside of themselves. So do not expect them to. That's huge. And then let's think of this. If you're watching this video and you haven't yet encountered someone who is narcissistic, when you see someone who relates everything back to themselves, then it's important to pay attention to that. At first, it can be really mesmerizing. Oh, wow, you relate to that. You relate to this. You relate to that. But somebody who relates to everything probably is a little misguided in that idea. Again, it's tough to distinguish between the actual culture of the modern world, which idolizes self-centeredness, and people who are clinically narcissistic. Look, at the end of the day, here's what matters. Human connection is about relationships. In fact, relationships are human connection. So we are designed to connect with one another, to not only rely on others when we need it, but also give to others when they need it. And someone who's stuck in those 4 mirrors of narcissism isn't able to give others what they need, only if they're giving to the extent that they see the usefulness in that other person. That's tough. Again, it's tough to be around. So be mindful, be aware. If someone is keeping the focus on themselves, if they're not taking responsibility, boom, that's a huge red flag. So if you meet someone and let's say they can even say the words, because there's so much information on the internet out there nowadays, people can look at it and they can say, oh yes, I know I'm fallible, I know I make mistakes. But then you ask them about the mistakes they make and they justify, rationalize, and defend every mistake they ever make. Well, then they're not actually owning up to their mistakes. They're just using the language to try to keep you shielded from seeing where they actually are. Look, be mindful. Not only on the lookout for those who are struggling with that self-centeredness to that extent, but also for the ways in which you might be self-centered. I think the more we realize the ways in which we are self-centered, the more we can set that aside and reach out and connect with others just for the sake of what we can do for others. Hey, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please subscribe, hit like, and until next time, as always, I wish you much peace.